Good afternoon, and thank you for watching our coverage of the CAPSIM Challenge on Channel 7 News. I'm Caitlin Miggles, and today I'll be speaking with various employees at Chester, a company battling to make a profit in the highly competitive sensor industry. While Chester did not come out on top of this industry, they made a valiant effort. Today, we'll discuss their strategy and where they think they went wrong. First, we're joined by Chester's CEO, Chris Schuster. Chris, thanks for being with us today.
Good to be here.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about Chester's overall strategy?
Our overall strategy was to focus on our high-end, low-end, and traditional products while also maintaining a presence in the performance and size segments. To accomplish this, we devoted far less spending to our performance and size products of Code and Cure, and eventually had to phase out Code by 2014. And as consumer preferences continue to change, we decided to transition our existing products into new segments and also introduce a new high-end product, which we called Cola. Our main competitors, Ferris and Baldwin, employed a very similar strategy and were more effective in offering lower prices and gaining higher market share.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Next, we're joined by Andrew Budinoff, VP of R&D at Chester. So, Andrew, what was your initial plan for R&D, and what decisions did you make over the last 8 years?
Well, the first few years we kept up with our competitors. We would slowly increase the performance of the products and decrease the size as they were to be improved. We decided to leave our low-end product, Cedar, stationary because we didn't want to increase the costs. During 2012, we were very proud to develop our new high-end product, Cola, and that would be available for sale at the end of 2013. Our overall strategy is that we hope to transition products as the perceptual map moved. Our traditional product would become our low end, our high end would become our traditional, and Cola would become our high end.
Great. So looking back, would you have made any changes?
Overall, I think our strategy was successful, but we didn't stick with our size and performance segments, and this decreased our market share and hurt us compared to our competitors. Another thing is that the MBTF of our products was too high, and we took too long to end up decreasing this for the majority of our products. And maybe our biggest mistake is that Ferris, our major competitor, was able to offer superior products, which is something that we never wanted to have.
All right, well, thanks, Andrew. We're now joined by Danielle Raylick, the Chief Operating Officer at Chester. So, Danielle, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about Chester's overall production strategy?
I'd love to. See, here at Chester, we wanted to focus on having an overall contribution margin of at least 30% while balancing competitive prices. So we kind of focused on trying to contain our labor and material costs. We used automation. We did this for our longer-lived and less sophisticated products, so our low and traditional end products. We try to increase the automation for that yearly, while we left our more sophisticated products to kind of stagnate in automation. We did have some issues. Coat's margins started to drop to unacceptable levels. The lowest would be 21.6%, and that's where we decided we just had to phase that out. We started lacking also a presence in the high-end markets, so we introduced Cola, available at grocery stores. And we started off with good margins, high sales. However, just Baldwin and Ferris, we just couldn't compete with them, so at the end we did start losing a little bit of market share.
Okay, good to know. So, looking back on your past 8 years, was there anything you would have done differently? Would you have changed anything?
Oh yes. One of our big issues was that we use marketing's forecast. We have a great marketing department. However, our environment wasn't as predictable as we thought it was going to be. We were pretty competitive with Baldwin, neck and neck. That was good. They kept us on our toes, and Digby just sank. But Ferris, they came in with unpredictable behavior of this crazy investment in their production capabilities, and we just didn't see that coming. They ended up swooping our market share, offering better products at lower prices, and we just couldn't compete. We also kind of had a little short-term vision. We didn't really automate as much as we should have. So in the beginning we were pretty competitive, but our lack of foresight kind of hurt us in the end. So we couldn't compete with lower prices of our competitors, which that combined with our ill forecast and unforeseen circumstances meant that we had high inventory levels we also didn't want to keep. So a few changes, but our low budget and doing with the best we could, I think we did all right.
Well, thank you, Danielle.
You're welcome.
Next, we're joined by Katie Mackin, the VP of Marketing at Chester. Hi, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. So where did you focus your marketing spending, and how did you deal with decisions made by other divisions of Chester?
Well, our strategy was to target the high-end, traditional, and low-end segments of the market. So we really focused our marketing spending and efforts on our products Cake, Cedar, and Sid. And we focused a little less on Coat and Cure, which were our performance and size products. Since we have such high-quality products, our prices were slightly above average when compared with our competitors. And for our first couple of years of operations, this was fairly successful. All three of our core products were within the top 2 selling products in their segments, and we had high awareness and accessibility. However, as time went on, with increased competition, financial issues within our own company, and just decreased sales coupled with increased costs, we really started to run into some problems, and we had to drop Coat, our performance product. But what this did was it freed up some money to invest more in marketing and developing our products. So this increased spending led to increased sales over time. Cola, our high-end product, its market share actually went up from 12% to 25% with this increased spending.
Great. So how did you cope with the decisions of your competitors, and what changes might you have made looking back?
Well, one of our biggest competitors, Ferris, in 2012 they introduced a great new high-end product called Fugly, and it was very well positioned within consumer preferences. It took a lot of market share from our high-end product, Sid. So then the following year we introduced our own new high-end product, Cola. However, we didn't invest quite as much in marketing for this product launch as Ferris did, and so we sold basically as much as we could produce, but this wasn't a significant level. And so it wasn't really until we were able to spend more on marketing that the Cola sales really began to pick up. So looking back overall, Ferris and Baldwin, they really kept their products within the realm of consumer needs and preferences, which of course is essential. And they also were able to price their products lower than ours, which increased their appeal, especially in the low-end and traditional segments. So we really should have just invested some more in marketing early on and just kept the consumer needs more in focus.
Great. Well, thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
So joining us now is Chris Denise, the Senior VP at Chester. Chris, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell me a bit about your finance strategy and how you dealt with competitors?
Sure. So when I came into Chester, I came from an old school of thought, trying to avoid as much debt as possible. So our operation here was to use our retained earnings from sales and invest what we did have year to year in cash into property, plant, equipment, and to total quality management. Unfortunately, we didn't have much retained earnings, or sometimes we didn't have any at all, as we did after year 1 and year 4. So we had to get bailed out by the government. Needless to say, we had to change something. So as years passed, we tried to slim down our costs. We did invest what we could from our debt operations and also from stock issues into these property, plant, equipment, and TQM operations.
So now, moving on to HR, what actions did you take to deal with workers throughout the past 8 years?
We had a great relationship with our labor force. We established a strong contract right at the beginning of my tenure, and we were able to stay in close communication, avoid all kind of labor disputes over the last 8 years. And it wasn't until the 4th year that we actually realized that we could hire and fire these employees. We thought that we were sticking with the same number year to year. So that was obviously hurting our contribution margin the first 4 years. After that, we were able to decrease costs by slimming down the employee force sometimes and also hiring when we needed to.
So now, concerning TQM, what decisions did you make, and looking back, would you make any changes?
Certainly would go back and make a few changes, like invest in TQM before the 5th year. We didn't realize we could do that, so while other groups like Baldwin and Ferris were looking more long-term, taking a more long-term focus, we were really trying to save as much cash as possible year to year. If we could have invested some of that in TQM, decreased our material costs and labor costs and even administrative costs at the beginning of the operation, we would have saved more over the long term.
Well, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Cut.
Good work, you're fired. Get out of here.
Well, you saw it here first. It seems the management at Chester will be changing. I'd like to thank these important decision makers for joining us today and giving us some insight into the operations at Chester. Thanks for watching Channel 7 News. I'm Caitlin Miggles, and stay classy, Boston College.